to welcome in now Dr. Peter Earle, a senior research fellow at the American Institute for Economic Research. Peter, it's great to see you again. All right, so we're already seeing all of this back and forth. These new tariffs just went into effect at midnight. We're already now seeing Canada threatening more tariffs, with President Trump immediately responding, promising to respond to those tariffs with more tariffs. Are we seeing the beginnings of a trade war like so many economists, like billionaire Warren Buffett, all warned about?
Absolutely. And one could argue that it began in 2018 and that there was just a brief ceasefire. The one thing that's important to remember is that there's never been a levying of tariffs as far as I have seen in history, and I'm pretty sure that this is the case. There's never been one that didn't result in some sort of response. There's always retaliation, and even now, what was just reported, we're already hearing about one-upsmanship, where if you put 25 on us, we're going to put 50 on you, et cetera. And it's very easy for these things to spiral out of control. The big concern, of course, is not only that it raises costs for consumers and all that, but it makes it very difficult for businesses to plan if they don't know what their input costs are going to be. So it could be a very short amount of time before we start to feel secondary and tertiary effects on top of the increases in prices.
Well, the next question here, is the American consumer the loser in all of this?
Absolutely. By my estimates, household prices could rise as much as $2,000 this year. And, we're talking about things that we are familiar with, but we don't always know what goes into. A huge part of car production in the U.S. involves car parts, auto parts and other parts of machinery from Canada and a number of other places. So, these days we live in very, complicated, we live among very complicated supply chains. A lot of the things that we consume come from different places. And unfortunately, this might be the way that Americans learn that, but it's going to be a painful lesson.
Yeah, I know.
That's what happens. Yeah.
I think about the people, who have extra disposable income, who may not like it, but won't really be squeezed. But I do think about those people who really are living paycheck to paycheck already. Is there any plus side to this, Peter? We are seeing car maker Honda announcing that it is shifting production from Mexico to Indiana. Their new Civic will be produced all out of Indiana. Indirect response to these tariffs. So arguably there is some good coming from this.
Well, you could look at it that way. I prefer to think that they could have been lured without the tariffs, which are going to basically hurt Americans like another tax. But as I said before, I think if there's one positive, it might be that people, learn exactly how interdependent the economies of the world are. And, the best hope now that these things are in place is that they're quickly resolved and that, we come back to some sort of equilibrium in terms of international trade. But I have a feeling that there's a point that the current administration wants to get across, and they're going to probably do what's necessary to get it across, despite the pain that it causes.
I do want to talk about what potentially happens next, but we've been reporting that consumers will more than likely first see the impacts at the grocery store. We're already seeing egg prices that are sky high. That has nothing to do with tariffs. That has to do with bird flu.
Sure.
But Peter, is that correct? Is the grocery store the first place we'll probably see the impact?
I'll set myself up to be wrong here, but I have a feeling that anybody who likes avocados is in for some sticker shock soon, because they come from Mexico and we buy a lot of them, and the prices are likely to go up. Yeah, I definitely think there's other things too in terms of groceries and a trip to the supermarket in terms of prices. You have transportation. We would expect to see oil and gas rise. You have costs associated with if there are layoffs, that sort of thing. You have costs associated with temporary labor. So again, it's not just the rising prices or the higher prices due to tariffs, but the secondary effects: higher transportation, higher handling fees, that sort of thing, which are going to probably make this pretty painful.
All right.
Hopefully short-lived.
Hopefully short-lived. What do you think happens next, Peter? I know you certainly don't have a crystal ball, but considering that we are already seeing this immediate back and forth, and we're now just over 12 hours into these new tariffs, do you think we're going to see even more? Do you think we'll possibly see them rolled back?
I do hope I'll see them rolled back. I do have a feeling also, my instinct is that the current administration wants to prove a point and that they will be willing to take some pain, by which I mean have the American people experience some pain to make that happen. Just today, the Atlanta Fed Now estimate for GDP came out, and it plummeted to an estimate of almost 3%, negative 2.8% for the first quarter. That would be a really, really bad contraction. And if it kept up, we would have a recession. I hope that's not what happens, but I would say that I would lean more towards that than on a speedy resolution, because I feel that the administration believes that there's a point to be made. Whether or not we agree with it, I think that they are going to dig in their heels and prove that we have the largest economy on earth.
All right, well, Dr. Peter Earle, you always make the numbers make sense. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.